Hello. Hello. Oh, you can't hear me? Let me come down to your level. It's Masta Peace. What's going on? This is about coming down to other people's levels, when dealing with them, Like, for example, if you're going to be blowing the whole truth open about the Bible and what a sham it is and whatever, you can't speak like, you're up here and you're better than them and and you're free and you were never once religious in your life, or you don't have people in your family that pray for Jesus over their meals and shit, and like you're better than that. No, you got to come down. You got to come on their level so they can hear you. All right. For example, Sarah Sutasetti, if you don't know him, go look up his page. I'm sure you do. He doesn't preach like he's above, you know? He gets right down to the street level, you know what I'm saying, of people, and starts there. You know, I worked with kids once. I worked with kids and at this like play place thing. I had a couple jobs that entailed looking after kids. And one thing that the parents said that they loved what I do and my approach is I crouch down on my knees. I get down on my knees. I'm like, hey, buddy, what's going on? How you doing? Yeah? Because when you stand up as an adult and you're dictating down, then there's this kind of like power thing, right? Or if you're in class, you have this teacher who's standing up and you're sitting down and she's dictating to you all what to do. And so it's very condescending and it's very not fair and it hurts. So what we need to understand is that when we're awakening people, right, through whatever, um, the media lies, the government lies, the food lies, the globe Earth lies, the um, you know, all of that. The lie of scarcity, the lie of having to pay to travel, the lie of imaginary lines making borders. When you're waking up somebody from this, right? Say, for example, you say, hey, did you know that you don't need a driver's license to travel in your vehicle? And then they would say, yeah, you do. You'd say, no, you don't. You only need a license if you're driving, and driving in legalese means you're being commissioned. So who needs a license? Well, taxi drivers, cab drivers, airplane drivers, you know what I mean? So when you wake up somebody to these conspiracies, you cannot speak to them as if you were never in their boat. You know what I mean? You can't speak to them as if you never once believed in the facade. You have to sympathize with them and empathize. Yeah, I know, man, it's crazy. Yo, I've been there too. Like, I remember, man, like when I found out, my whole world was upside down. I spent like a week in my room. It was tough. Then that opens them up. Or if you're like a health coach, you don't rag if you're plant-based, don't rag on people and make them feel bad for eating meat, because 6 years ago, 7, 8 years ago, you ate meat and you ate dairy and cheese. So the message is, if you want to uplift somebody, if you want to lift them up, you can't do it by being above them, because then you're pulling them up. And if you're pulling them up, then all the weight's on you. All the weight is on you if you're pulling them up, because you're reaching down and their life is in your hand. Now you have a whole bunch of responsibilities. You just blew their mind open. You put them down at the same time. And so maybe they're not as willing to grow anymore and learn. But if you get down on their level, eye to eye, equal, right? Then you can speak to them. Then when you speak to them, they're thinking that it's like themselves speaking to them, like their inner voice. It's like, yo, this dude's not doing that well. Neither am I. But he's kicking some shit I've never heard before. If you go to the hood in like a business suit, nice car, and you start telling everybody, stop selling drugs. You guys are, you're doing wrong. You know what I mean? They're not gonna hear you. They're gonna tell you to get the fuck out. But if you go on their level, you know what I'm saying? You go into it humble, streetwise, and generous, and just real. Just be real. Not putting anybody down, just being real. Then they're gonna hear you. So that's just a lesson, man. If you want to uplift somebody, do it by getting on their level and lifting them up, not pulling them up. You know what I mean? Walk up the ladder together. Make them feel like you're on the journey too. Make them feel like you're just finding this out too. You know what I mean? Like, oh shit, man. Like, red meat apparently stays in your system for years, and it creates a whole bunch of acidic problems in you, man. Like, that's crazy. And then they're like, what? Where'd you hear that? Then you can pull up and it's like, I don't know. I was reading this shit. It kind of stuck with me, man. Like, I don't know if I can eat the meat no more. And they'll be like, damn, man, maybe I won't either. But if you come and you're like, yo, man, meat's not good for you, man. It's bad. It's like acidic and it stays in your system, man. You gotta stop eating that shit, man. That shit's bad for you, man. I'm off of it. You should get off of it. They're not gonna hear you that way. They're not gonna take you that well. So get down onto people's levels, okay? And then build them up from there. Don't act like you're up here and like you're reaching your hand out, like you got a handout to give, and pull them up. They're not going to hear you. And if they do, it's not going to be genuine. It's not going to be a lifetime change that started from within. Our job is just to plant the seed. But to plant the seed, you need to get down on your hands and knees on the level of the soil. You know what I'm saying? If you just drop seeds from up there, it's going to bounce here and there, and you never know what's going to happen to it. So you got to get down, you got to tend the seeds, And if you're going to take the responsibility to open up somebody's mind, then you got to understand what you're in for. You're in for years of that, of coaching them, taking them through it. So with that being said, this is Masta Peace. Eat to live, and keep sharing your light. Share your light with everybody. All right, but do it from their level, not from above. Okay? All right, y'all. Peace.